you're really excited about. Maybe it's a heated conversation with your spouse. If you've got emotion around that and you're nervous or you're anxious or you're frustrated, that creates nervousness, anxiousness, and frustration in you and in your body. And that starts to control what information the brain's bringing to you.
This is Right About Now with Ryan Alford, a Radcast Network production. We are the #1 business show on the planet with over 1 million downloads a month. Taking the BS out of business for over 6 years and over 400 episodes. You ready to start snapping necks and cashing checks? Well, it starts right about now.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Right About Now. We're always talking about what you need to do right now, what you need to do today. Look, we can talk about the past, but all that does is give you a sore neck. That's what I say. That's why I got no rear view mirrors in my car, baby. That's why we're going to talk about what we need to do today. We're trying to get you ahead in business, marketing, life. Look, this show's about it all. That's why we're #1. You know why we're #1? Because I got good friends. And one of them is Rudi Riekstins. What's up, Rudi?
Hey, thank you so much for having me, Ryan. I'm excited to be on the show today.
Hey, it's taken too long. You might recognize the name if you're listening because Rudi's amazing wife was on the show. He was a true gentleman, letting his wife go first. She was awesome. Aniston's episode has been skyrocketing in downloads. I've got a lot of feedback, and she's a rock star. But we got the rock star couple here because Rudi is one of the best. Let's just say the best, because you're going to find out today the best performance coach on the earth. This is not. Hey, we're all life coaches these days, right? No, this is not. Hey, got this course at Walmart and all that. No, this is a high performer coach. This is what I'm talking about. Rudi knows his shit and he's on our network because I love him. I love his passion. And when you leave today, you're going to know why. And Rudi, I mean that wholeheartedly.
You know, I appreciate you. I have so much love and respect for you and for what you're doing. And obviously just the opportunity to spend 30 minutes with you is just an incredible way to start a day, man. So thank you so much for having me on the show, brother.
Yeah, man. We're about to go on fire here. This is a hot 30, guys. So I told you coming in January, the gloves were coming off because I'm not like going to dance around. I'm working on me too, baby. The mirror is right. I got mirrors on both sides of me in this studio. So don't ever doubt it. And Rudi's not afraid to bust my balls too. Just go ahead and tell you, he's done it a few times. He's going to keep doing it because I appreciate him. I respect him. But look, we're bringing action today. We want to talk about high performance. Business is about high performance, but it's the right way. This is what I love about Rudi. He's a lover. He'll love you through it, but damn, he'll get you there in the hardest, softest way possible. But we want to take you to your highest level. And a lot of people listening, Rudi, are entrepreneurs, budding entrepreneurs, executives. 25 to 45. That's right in our sweet spot. So we know you're out there. We appreciate you for listening. And I want Rudi to first. He's going to tell you, a little bit about himself. Rudi's show. We'll have this in the show notes. We'll link to whatever Rudi thinks is his best origin story episode is, and we'll have that in the show notes because you can get that anywhere. But we want to bring high performance attributes. But Rudi, set the table for the types of people you've worked with and what it's all about with working, with high performers and just your background, just a little bit.
I love that you want to start the show by just going into giving value to your audience because, this is not about me and it's about somebody who is investing their time, effort, and energy into listening to your show that at the end of 30 minutes, they walk away and they say, holy crap, that was the most incredible expenditure of 30 minutes of my life. And I'm going to action something. I'm going to achieve something. And I feel an internal shift in who I am and where I'm going. And that's what my intention is for the next few moments. And so I'll very briefly say, if you want to learn about me, go to the Empowered Life podcast, listen to any one of those episodes. You're going to get to hear a ton of who I am and how I show up. But this episode really is about creating impact. I spend the bulk of my time working with high performers. Those could be anybody that is starting an organization, has a company, or full-blown Fortune 100 organizations where we support not only the company to achieve tremendous growth and success, but we do it by impacting the individual. And we all know that in every single business, in every single environment, we're going to find human beings that are in play. And if we can impact the individuals inside of any organization, they're going to play at a higher level. And the higher the level they play, the better the profitability for the business. And so I generally create impact by driving revenue, but the revenue is the default to actually coming in and supporting people just to feel good, to show up better, to overcome what's been holding them back, to truly be the highest and the greatest potential of who they are, and who they've come here to be.
I love it. Concise and to the point. And I'm going to say something because Rudi nailed it. And anyone listening that's in marketing today will understand where I'm going here. And Rudi this is why Rudi's a world-class coach, because he used the buzzwords that matter. And I'm going to go to revenue. Look, we can all go to the retreats and do some trust falls, and we can go do all the woo-woo shit. And look, hey, I like a little bit of woo-woo shit. I got a show called Vibe Science. I talk about some of that stuff. It matters. But in business, we need outcomes. And what Rudi does drives outcomes and revenue, and that's the difference. You know, we can all be happy. We can be shiny. We can do all that, and it matters because you need to invest in your people. But we need it to have an outcome. And Rudi, I want to turn that kind of into like that first question. I mean, what are the outcomes? Like, talk about, I'm going to set this up as some of the successes you've seen and some of the outcomes, because I know there's been multi-million-dollar outcomes from things you've done. But talk about layering what you just said you do into some of the outcomes you've seen with some of the clients that you've worked with.
I'm going to give you 3 rapid fire responses because I think people need to see in different areas of life. I had a young guy, he was 31 years old at the time, came to me, never been in a long-term relationship, said he was looking, to make start a business. He wanted to make a bit of a fortune for himself. He had some ideas. He didn't know how to take action. At the time, he was furloughed. He was homeless. He had to move back in with his mom. He came to me because he was debilitated. And within 8 months, the guy had made $1 million in an e-commerce business that I supported him with. I did not come up with the idea. The idea was his, but I supported him in taking action. He had $800,000 in the bank. He was in a long-term relationship for the first time in his life. And the reason is because he didn't think that he was worthy of the relationship. That's why he had never been in a relationship up until the age of 31. Never been in a relationship. The guy had 2 one-night stands his entire life. But here, he was all of a sudden in a long-term committed relationship. Again, I didn't introduce him to the girl. I didn't give him the business idea. I just supported him to take action. And that's because I can identify those things that hold an individual back. We went into an organization in the middle of COVID. Everybody was working at home. It was a startup company out of Canada. And they were really struggling with morale and getting people to show up on these camera calls and to, navigate what Zoom world looked like and then to drive revenue. And I spent a couple of days with them inside of their business, meaning logging into their calls, listening. And I identified, man, this company has so much potential, but there is a tremendous amount of lack mentality in the business. I identified that the people selling the products, they didn't believe that anyone could afford what they were selling because they themselves couldn't afford what they were selling. I did a handful of trainings on reminding them that they may not be in a position to buy what they're selling, but every person coming to them has the power, the potential to do that. They started going from $7,500 sales quotas all of a sudden to $100,000 sales quotas. Then they went to $150,000 sales quotas. I'm talking about per person. And then they went to $300,000. And this happened inside of 3 months. So we're talking about a company that wasn't touching $100,000 a month in revenue to all of a sudden doing almost $1 million a month in revenue. The only change, the one common denominator, was every person in that business really had a dominant way of thinking and feeling, and that was that no one can afford this. Like, how am I going to sell this product? Who's going to be able to buy that? I mean, I can't even buy that. And that was the energy that they brought into what they were doing, and that translated into their sales. The last example I'm going to give you is I went into a business in New York City. They sat down with the owner of the company, and he was like, we're at $300-something million. We want to get to $1 billion. We've never been able to hit the $1 billion mark. What can you do? And I said, I'm going to touch the people, not the product, not the marketing. Let's go in and touch the people. And I can't give you the growth, but we're past $1 billion. And I've been working with this company for years. The company in itself is going to double, and then it's going to triple in the next 3 years. Markets have opened up for them that would never have been available to them in the past. the reason all of this happened, the reason they had such profound growth, and the growth really truly is that profound, is not because I came into the business and saved the day. It's that I went in and I supported the individuals who are the brilliance behind the company, the geniuses that are phenomenal at what they do. I just help them get back into brain coherence. I help them tap back into inspiration. I help them wake up and feel confident, eager, and excited about what they do. Man, when you can do that for an individual, a team, or an entire organization, people show up very, very differently. And then all of a sudden, you start to see that trajectory where the revenue goes through the roof, the morale goes through the roof, people are eager, they're excited, they're showing up, and they're really revving to show up at work. Then all of a sudden, you start to stack evidence. And the more evidence you stack of, hey, this is working, the more people do the work. And the more they do the work, the more the revenue climbs. And so it creates this beautiful cycle. And I've just had an honor and a privilege of being able to watch thousands and thousands of individuals or companies achieve that level of success. And it's always because we're pouring into the people.
You know, man, I about ran around the house, the whole building naked 5 times because I love the results. I'm sitting here going, damn. And you know what got me? Because I'm just relating to every one of them. That's an old saying in the Alford family. That's going to make me run around the house naked 5 times. That's a compliment. That means you're excited. I'm sitting here going, I grew up, my grandmother used to say that. It was kind of odd, you know, but but it was funny. We knew what it meant. And so here's my takeaway from that. You can't always see what's happening around you when you're so close to it. You need outside binoculars and someone kind of looking and observing it through a different lens. It's really hard to do it internally. And that is number one. And number two, the lack mentality it was really relatable because I have had people through the years, both at my agency, you know, that I'd worked on for others. It wasn't my agency I was working at, and the agency that I own in multiple channels where I've had people, and I don't have that mentality personally. And so I couldn't identify it. But hearing you say that, now looking back at certain people I had, that was exactly what was going on. It's really fascinating because I'm like, why wouldn't they think that? But they just assume everybody puts themselves in the shoes and go, oh, I couldn't afford that, so I can't sell that. Well, it's a very limiting place to be, isn't it?
You know, I watch people's terminology because there's micro details in everything. And with this particular company that I was referring to, I was on a call listening to somebody talk about the product. And when they got to pricing, he broke eye contact from the camera and looked away, almost like he was ashamed and he was embarrassed. He mentioned the price, and then he couldn't make eye contact for about another 30 seconds, like stumbling through it. And this is the point where you like, and it is, da-da, you know, and you do the silent close. No, he was shriveling away. And so at the end of the call, I said to him, hey, man, like, you don't believe that anyone can buy this? And he was like shocked. Well, what do you mean? Because he was a great salesperson. I mean, if you just looked at it, what he was doing, he was phenomenal, but just wasn't closing anything. And I said, you looked away at the point of when you actually dropped your offer, and it tells me that you don't believe that they can buy it, or you're embarrassed about the price. And he goes, yeah, man, I mean, it really is. It's very expensive. And I'm like, it's very expensive for you. And he goes, yeah, it is. I'm like, you can't afford it, can you? And he's like, no, you can see how much I make. Like, I'm not selling anything. And I'm like, well, can I ask you a question? He's like, yeah. I was like, do you think the person that you're talking to has the potential to afford what you're selling? And he goes, well, I guess there's a potential. And I'm like, let's focus on that potential. The very next day, and this literally, you can quote me, $140,000 in revenue, $140,000 the very next day. The guy had never sold more than $7,500, and he had been in the company for 3 months. The difference was he realized, wow, you know what? Maybe this person can sell, and that was all he needed. And that is what I find in almost every company. You'll see a CEO or a president of a large organization, they have these blind spots that they're unaware of, because what people don't realize is that we bring all of our emotions, all of our traumas, all of our past, all of our experiences into every single room. And sometimes those things are blind spots to us. We're not all Ryan Alford with these mirrors on the side of us, but we can see ourselves at all times and how we're showing up in any moment. And so we need someone to bring that out. And that's what I love about this, is where you really see somebody that overcomes something, identifies something, brings awareness to something that they weren't aware of, and then they start to move forward significantly faster. That to me is always the greatest reward of the work that I do.
So if you're a manager out there, owner of a company, you know to call. But now, Rudy, I want to turn it to what, a little bit of what we talked about pre-episode. Making this actionable for looking through the lens of what high performance means and is. Everyone getting the most. Performance to me is an interesting thing because there's like this fine line of potential realized. Like it's like, how do you reach that potential? And, what are those attributes? Like, as you work with so many high performers, you've worked with at the highest level and you've taken some to the highest level. What are those things that you feel like you push people to do, those 4 or 5, like, here's what you have to start doing to get to the highest performance?
The fastest way to create a change in somebody's life is to bring awareness to the life that they've been living so that they can make micro adjustments to what they've already been doing. Because for the most part, most of us are doing a really good job, but there's things that we're doing that hold us back. The number one thing that I do when I start with anybody, now whether this is an individual or an entire organization, is get them to start curating what their day is going to look like before they start their day. The majority of people don't do that. They wake up and they react to every single situation, meaning you open your eyes, your alarm goes off, you pick up your phone, you open up Instagram, you look at your bank account, you check your email. By the time you've gone to pee, you're already upset, you're frustrated, you're irritated, you turn on Fox News or CNN, you're annoyed about something else, and there's all this outside stimulation. And the majority of people are oblivious to the fact that every single thing that the brain perceives in the first 20 minutes of the day, the brain is the most susceptible to change and influence at that time. And so if I open up my email and I get an email from a client and they're upset and I read it and now I'm upset, I'm going to be upset for the rest of the day. But there is a very quick 20-minute routine that I can bring into a person's life or an organization where everybody wakes up carefully, calculatedly, intentions. What do they want their day to look like? It's a simple process. It's not hard, like we have to push a car up a hill or we've got to do 1,000, push-ups or star jumps. It's literally sitting in the quiet of your mind, releasing any stress about what your day was like yesterday, what you've got going on, the meeting ahead of you, and becoming really calm and then forecasting what would it feel like to have the most incredible day. And so if you're listening to this episode, I want you to think about something you have in your day ahead of you today. Maybe it's a hard conversation with somebody at work. Maybe it's a sales pitch that you're really excited about. Maybe it's a heated conversation with your spouse. If you've got emotion around that and you're nervous or you're anxious or you're frustrated, that creates nervousness, anxiousness, and frustration in you and in your body. And that starts to control what information the brain's bringing to you. And if you're nervous and anxious, the brain is going to scan 10 million bits of data around you every single second, sight, smell, sound, smell, and it's going to draw further information to validate that you need to stay that way. So you become more and more anxious, more and more frustrated. If you're nervous or insecure or angry, you're going to find more evidence in your everyday environment out of 10 million bits of data, narrowed down to 50 bits of data consciously to remind you, yes, you need to be resentful, you need to be frustrated, you need to be angry. The high performers, what they do is wake up in the morning and understand that you can manipulate the mind. If you can manipulate the mind, you can manipulate the emotional state. And if you can get into a state where you feel eager, excited, confident about what you're doing. So let's use the example. You're pitching a really big deal and everything around this deal, like your life depends on this deal. And so if you wake up and you're nervous and anxious and you're worried about the deal, you're going to approach that and you're going to go into a sales meeting and they're going to feel your anxiety, your nervousness, your anxiousness, your dependency on the outcome of that. So the reverse is wake up in the morning before you receive outside stimulation, go into your mind for a moment, curate a feeling of you being in a state of flow. Like you're in that meeting and the words are flying out of your mouth beautifully. You're nailing every single sentence the way you need to, the way you want to. You see them nodding. You see them positively reacting. The man's arms were folded, then he opens his arms and now he's engaged and he's ready to make the transaction. The lady on the other end of the table asks the perfect question. You have the perfect answer and then you see the deal being done. Feel that emotion of what it would feel like to get up from that table and high five your friends back at the office because you nailed the deal, you've closed it, you're super excited, you go home and you celebrate. If you could curate that feeling in the very beginning of the day, your brain is now going to set that dominant state. You're going to go forward for the rest of your day, but here's where you've changed the formula. The brain's still picking up 10 million bits of data every single second. But the 50 bits of data that you are consciously aware of, meaning the brain narrows down all information to only show you 50. The 50 bits of data are going to be based on you being successful, you being in a state of flow, you achieving the deal. Your brain's already learned what does it feel like to have achieved that. The brain doesn't understand the difference between the past, the present, or the future. And in that moment, it already got the deal. So your physiological state got the deal. And if you've got the deal, when you walk in, you're walking in as someone who's already got it. Now, the reason why this is important, Ryan, is what does it feel like when you walk into a meeting and the person you're meeting with already has the physiological state, the energy, the terminology, and the confidence, like they've already got it. It's not arrogance. It's like, hey man, yeah, this is a formality. Like, let's go through the process. Versus walking into a room and someone's nervous and anxious and agitated, or worse, pissed off, frustrated, and resentful.
Confidence creates confidence. It's amazing. You walk into a room with confidence, especially when you're making a sale or something, they become confident in you. Right. You
know, there was an interesting article I read about 2 years ago where they looked at the highest earners, $1 billion earners that were self-made. And they interviewed them to look at what were all of the things that they did to achieve the success, right? They were trying to find that one bullet that we could say if everybody copied this one thing. And they all did a lot of things. They didn't all do the same things, but there was only one thing that every single self-made billionaire out of the 100 billionaires that had been interviewed that had achieved that level of wealth. And it was every single one of them journaled. Now, I want you to think about this for a second, because we're on the Right About Now show. We're about hustle and grind and make it happen and outbeat our competitors. And I'm telling you, if you were to slow down in the first few minutes of your day and put pen to paper, what am I proud of that I did yesterday that I can bring into today? Or how can I walk into today and feel really confident? What's the first thing that I need to do? Just spending time clarifying your mind, clarifying your thoughts, and putting it down on paper. That is the one thing every single self-made billionaire did. They all read, they all woke up at different times, they all ate different foods, they all had different workouts. That was the only thing that they all had in common. And I'm not talking about necessarily sit down and check out your feelings all day long. And it's more just about time to clarify who are you and where do you want to go. The bulk of my work is asking you, do you want to live a reactionary life where you walk into a room and you react, you open your email, you react? Or do you want to carefully, purposefully, calculatedly plan, who do you want to be? How do you want to feel? How do you want to show up? What is the result you want to create? And where do you want your company to go? Because when you can get yourself and you can get your organization, everyone in your organization to be marching in alignment to the same tune, that's where miracles happen. And miracles is just a shift in perspective. And the only way you can get that is by spending a little bit of time with yourself in the very beginning of the day.
Bam. Boom. My good friend, Brad Lee drops bombs. That was a bomb that just got dropped right there. I mean, yeah, Rudi, I like to summarize things, and I kept coming back to this every time while you were talking. It's like something about the intersection of preparedness and confidence. It's like preparation. Like, I know a lot of what you described is deeper than preparation, but we don't prepare enough. I think of the moments when I've walked into presentations and I've gone through it. I've practiced. I've got all the words, like you said. I've thought about, I don't know if I thought about the high five win. I'm going to take that one. I'm going to do like high five win and run around the building naked 5 times. All that in one. I'm going to be thinking that in the head. But it's preparedness, like preparation. We do a lot of shit in life and in business that just doesn't get the attention of slowing down and preparing. And it might seem a little simple, but man, it's a big impact.
Most people think that we have to wake up and grind and hustle and work harder than the next guy. And I'm going to tell you that when you slow down for a moment and you carefully plan, who do you want to be? What do you want to do? What it is you want to achieve? It changes everything in your life, and you actually get the result faster, and the result is greater. But I want to explain that because a lot of people are listening to this thinking it sounds great, But I'm never going to do that because I now know that when I wake up and I work really hard and I grind it out and I cold plunge and I gym and I eat the protein powder raw, like I'm going to get that results, right? But the reality behind this is something is driving and dictating who you are every single day, and it's not you. 95% of every single thing that every single person does on the planet is unconscious. Over the age of 35, 95% of how you answer a question, how you do a sales pitch, how you respond to somebody pulling in front of you in traffic, any little reaction in your life is all pre-automated. So you are a duplication of who you used to be, not who you want to be. So if you wake up in your life right now and you say, man, I want to be a millionaire, or man, I want to take my company to 100 million, or I'm at 100 million, I want to get to 1 billion. The version of you that is you today is not going to get you to where you want to go. I'm going to tell you that right now. No matter how hard that is to swallow, you are never going to get you to where you want to go next. You are only qualified right now to get you to where you are because that's where you're at. And if you want to achieve something different, you've got to do something different. You've got to think different. You have to feel different. You have to take different action. And so if you want to achieve something you've never achieved, you've got to think and feel and act in a way that you've never acted, thought, or felt before, which will drive very different behavior. The reason why most people will spend the bulk of their life, man, I was at a conference this weekend and on stage, I stand in front of hundreds of people and I ask the question, how many of you, by standing, how many of you have a dream or a goal or a desire that you want for your life, that's on your heart, that is burning in your chest, that you can never let go? Please stand. And the entire room, minus one lady who was in the room holding a 3-month-old baby, everyone stood up. And then I said, great. Stay standing if you've had that dream for longer than a year. And everybody stayed standing. Then I said, take a seat, right? If you've had that dream, for more than 2 years. And then so a couple of people took a seat. I was like, okay, 5 years. And about a third of the room sat down. So the bulk, meaning 3/4 of that room, they were standing for a dream they have for themselves that they've wanted to achieve, whether it was in their business or their personal life, for more than 5 years. And they haven't been able to achieve it because they do the same, they think the same, and then they want to know why the life doesn't change. And so if we're going to continue to repeat the definition of insanity, something at some point in time has to stop us. And when I go in and I support a high achiever to achieve their highest and their greatest potential, it's to help them remove the limiting beliefs, the unconscious thoughts, the actions that they do unconsciously that they are not aware of, so they can achieve that. Here's a stat that's really going to alarm you. 75% of the entire population is living in chronic stress more than 75% of the time. Now think about that. 3/4 of the human population is in heightened chronic stress all day of their waking day. So when they're sleeping, the stress subsides. The minute they wake up, they go back into heightened stress, which means if you have a company and you have 100 employees, 75 of your employees are in heightened chronic stress all day while they're at work. Why is this important? When you go into heightened stress, your brain loses the ability to have and process a logical thought, a rational thought. You lose the ability to have inspiration and intuition, and you lose your ability to be creative. So now what if you're sitting at work in an ad agency and you've got to come up with a really great idea and you're heightened stress? You're freaking out about your bank account, your marriage, your life, your health, your sales quota, whatever's going on. And now your boss says, I need you to figure this out and you've got an hour to do it. It's never going to happen. And we need to understand, how does the brain work and how do you get yourself back? And I'm going to tell you, it is easier than anyone thinks. The exercises and the processes are so simple, but they take education. We need to know, why are we doing something so that we will do it? Because people need to know what's in it for them. Otherwise, they're never going to do it. But if you could slow yourself down for a minute in that situation, take a few deep breaths in, create coherence of the brain, because the left and the right brain both compartmentalize. They shut down in stress, and that's why you can't fire logic and ration and reason. So you need to get them to reestablish that connection, which recreates the coherence, which creates the symbiotic relationship between the brain and the body. When you've got that, all of a sudden, inspiration flows, creativity flows, your stress levels go down, and now you're like, boom, I've got the idea. I know exactly what to do, and the idea lands. And that is a simple practice of being able to breathe in and breathe out, create separation between where you are and what you're experiencing, labeling and identifying what are the things that are coming up. These are really simple techniques that I teach, but you have to be aware that they are there and that they happen. I want to give just one exercise to your audience that they can take away and apply into their life as early as today. If you find yourself in heightened chronic stress, your tongue gets thick, your mouth gets dry, you're really struggling to think, if you have heightened emotion and you're stressed about something, stop, push yourself away from your desk, pick up a pen or a pencil, take your cell phone, anything, and just hold it a couple of feet from your face and stare at the pen. You and the pen, nothing but the pen, and take a really deep breath in and look at the pen. That act of observing something outside of you creates distance between you and the emotion. Your brain stops identifying as the emotion, and the moment you no longer identify with the anger, the frustration, the resentment, because your focus is on an external item outside of your body, all of a sudden, the brain creates that coherence. The minute the left and the right brain start to talk to each other again, the brain's like, oh, it's not that bad. Oh, you know what? We've got this. Hey, we overcame this in the past. And now you've come back to being you. 98% of people that I work with, and this is the population, 98% of people on the planet live a reactionary life where they are reacting to who they were in the past, how they reacted in the past. They're not constantly present today. And then they want to know why their lives don't change. But you need to be in control of your life. And the only way to do that is to be in control of your conscious thinking mind, getting out of stress. And these techniques, like I just shared, are really simple. But Ryan, I'm going to tell you, they are profoundly impactful. The people that I work with, their lives change in a very, very short amount of time. And it's because all of a sudden they become powerful. And the power is in being present and present in that moment. You know, the greatest qualities I would say of people that adopt this work with me is that they become centered, they become happier, they're more joyful, they show up in their lives with eagerness, with excitement, the underlying confidence that I mentioned to you. And then the last kicker, which is the most beautiful, is they start taking action, unapologetic action towards their dreams every single day. And the one thing, if you were to ask me, what holds people back? I would say it's taking action. They get the inspiration, they get the idea, but then there's a thought that lands that says, I'm not good enough, I can't do it, who's going to buy from me? Maybe it won't work. Oh, it could cost too much money. Oh, you know what, this could fail like the last time it failed. And it's overcoming those, so we just get into the action. When we take the action, everything changes, man, everything.
Self-mastery. It starts, and Rudi has a show called The Empowered Life. And it really, we want to externalize. It's this, it's that, or I got to have this, I got to have that, I got to, but it's mastering oneself is where the power, the performance, and the change comes from. And that's what Rudi's doing. I mean, I'm just sitting here, like every time I talk to Rudi, whether he knows it or not, like listening to one of his shows or having a phone call with him, or like just now, like, hey, I'm bringing this, I'm trying to empower my audience. And I'm sitting here going, damn it, I need to do better at that. I can do better. And that's why I love it. He is the performance coach that you need. I'm telling you. Rudi, I know you're opening up a group. You've got some new things coming. Talk to people about how they can work with you.
I am, finally through so many people asking for it, creating a community. I typically work with an organization or with a individual, and it would be one-on-one work that's obviously extremely time consuming. And so I am limited, obviously, through capacity to reach as many people that are in front of me at any given time. But the volume of people that have requested to work with me in a one-on-one capacity that don't have the resources for a six-figure retainer to go into a company to be able to pour into them and support them, I want to create a space where they can get the same information, but rather than having it one-on-one, they get it in a group format. And so we're creating the Empowered Life community. And the Empowered Life community is about teaching people how to take control of their lives back, how to create happiness, joy, fulfillment, freedom, which I believe are the cornerstones of living an abundant, joyful life. I remind people that we are so incredibly powerful. I've never met a person that has ever achieved their highest potential, because there's always more that we can achieve. I make this joke that if I ever met Elon Musk, I would say to him, man, why are you playing so small? The guy's revolutionized 4 or 5 industries, and still I would say, why playing so small, man? Because there's so much that we can do, and there's always more that we can do when we get there. But the Empowered Life podcast is about reminding the individual that everything that you want to have, everything you want to be, already resides within you. You don't have to look for external validation. You don't need somebody else to give you the tools to get there. You've been given everything in you to be who you came here to be. and that 98% of people are walking around oblivious to the potential that lies within them. And that through very simple techniques that we're going to teach week after week, bi-weekly calls. And I want to just preface right up front, Ryan, this isn't something I'm doing for money. This is something I'm doing for impact. My goal is to impact 8 billion lives. And the only way to impact 8 billion lives is to make more people and for me to touch more people. And when I go into organizations and support them, that's going in, and the company is obviously fitting the bill. And then I get my audience, 3,000, 30,000 people. But the Empowered Life community is a very, very low ticket item. And that is $500. It's less than $500 a year. And it gets them the same training that companies are paying $100,000, $200,000 to be able to have access to. And it is just, I'm going to highly recommend anybody who wants to have, be, or do, or achieve something to get inside one of the most supportive communities that are out there, if not the most supportive community, because we are just reminding people that the greatness already is there and that you can and have the potential to achieve everything. If that audience that I spoke at this weekend represents who's coming into this community, that people have a dream or a desire to do something. For most people, they don't have the resources to be able to take that level of action. And I wanted this to be such a nominal amount of money that somebody could pay that easily, even if they've got to put it on a credit card. $500 is not a lot of money, but it's enough money that they're going to pay attention. You see, what's interesting is when I got into coaching years ago, I coached for 7 years for free. I didn't need the money. And I just thought, I want to help people. I want to impact people. And so I hosted 54 live events with my wife, all of them for free. I hosted, one-on-ones in my home. I genuinely just poured into people. And man, they loved it. They kept coming back. But Ryan, not one of their lives changed. They didn't change because they didn't action anything. When I eventually got furloughed from my job and I was put in a position where I was forced to now start charging for coaching, all of a sudden, those very same people that have been attending my events, sitting in my home, having one-on-one calls with me, their lives started to change, and their lives changed dramatically. And the difference was they started to pay. And so the old saying goes, if you've spoken to any coach, when you pay attention. They started to pay attention. They started to move. And so this community is such a small amount of money, but that amount of money is your declaration of saying you're worthy of the life that you want. I am going to make an offer to your community and say anybody that signs up through your community, I'm going to give them as a gift a free course called Mindset Reset. And it is going to walk them through how to curate the most successful empowered self. It comes with a journal that you download. It comes with downloadable meditations. And then it's 8 videos that highlights exactly how does the brain work? How do you optimize the brain? And to do that in the very beginning of the day. And if you follow that system every single day, it's going to profoundly change your life. And I'm going to include that for free for them.
Awesome. Hey, if people recognize, the people that Rudi's been working with and the checks that they write for his brain, I might sign up 10 of my friends for this thing because it's unheard of. And Rudi, man, I love you. I appreciate you for all that you're bringing to the world, your gifts, and for being such a positive spirit and energy for me and for everybody that gets the honor of knowing you.
Well, I appreciate you, Ryan. I love you so much, man. I love what you guys are doing. I cannot thank you enough. And when we hang up, I'm going to run around my house 5 times naked, man. Appreciate you.
Yes, that's what we're talking about. We're going to have all the links to Rudi's stuff. You'll have that in the show links. We'll have social media with links to it. So you need to go do yourself a favor. Someone you love, sign them up for this. And if nothing else, go listen to the Empowered Life podcast. It'll make you feel good. We appreciate you. RyanIsRight.com, all the highlight clips, the full episode, links to Rudi's stuff, and where to find us. We love you. We appreciate you for making us number one. We'll see you next time on Right About Now.
This has been Right About Now with Ryan Alford, a Radcast Network production. Visit RyanIsRight.com for full audio and video versions of the show or to inquire about sponsorship opportunities. Thanks for listening.
If you're listening to this episode, I want you to think about something you have in your day ahead of you today. Maybe it's a hard conversation with somebody at work. Maybe it's a sales pitch that you're really excited about. Maybe it's a heated conversation with your spouse. If you've got emotion around that and you're nervous or you're anxious or you're frustrated, that creates nervousness, anxiousness, and frustration in you and in your body. And that starts to control what information the brain's bringing to you.
This is Right About Now with Ryan Alford, a Radcast Network production. We are the #1 business show on the planet with over 1 million downloads a month. Taking the BS out of business for over 6 years and over 400 episodes. You ready to start snapping necks and cashing checks? Well, it starts right about now.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Right About Now. We're always talking about what you need to do right now, what you need to do today. Look, we can talk about the past, but all that does is give you a sore neck. That's what I say. That's why I got no rear view mirrors in my car, baby. That's why we're going to talk about what we need to do today. We're trying to get you ahead in business, marketing, life. Look, this show's about it all. That's why we're #1. You know why we're #1? Because I got good friends. And one of them is Rudi Riekstins. What's up, Rudi?
Hey, thank you so much for having me, Ryan. I'm excited to be on the show today.
Hey, it's taken too long. You might recognize the name if you're listening because Rudi's amazing wife was on the show. And he was a true gentleman, letting his wife go